Hello and welcome to what is the last thought for the day in our lockdown series. As lockdown eases and our winter approaches, let's hold on another in prayer as we journey forwards. Listen to this reading. It's the beginning of Psalm 84. It's very well known, but try to catch with me the enthusiasm of the writer. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts! My soul longs. Indeed, it faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and flesh sing for joy to the living God. Even the sparrow finds a home and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young. At your altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. Happy are those who live in your house, ever singing your praise. Tremendous view there of the temple and the enthusiasm of the psalmist dreaming of being able to worship in joy with fellow believers in the house of God. Sobering fact hit me as I prepared this talk. I put the word derelict into my search engine and it prompted me that the next word that follows derelict logically is church. Perhaps a little like this church might come into our minds, or indeed the writers of the algorithm behind the search engine. Because for many of us, the idea of church is an unused building, an empty building, let alone one we sing for joy to approach. Perhaps it's a heritage building, one which is good to visit and perhaps good to understand a little, to wonder, perhaps to be still in. Certainly one where you would need a guidebook to find your way around. That guidebook, by the way, is for Kilpeck Church in Herefordshire, which is actually, if you can find it, it's in the middle of nowhere, well worth a visit for actually some pagan stone carvings which are still on the outside of the church. The poem today is a fairly well-known poem by Philip Larkin. We've not had one of his poems before in this series. He's a bit of a Marmite poet. Some really appreciate his poetry, others don't. But it's a poem about visiting a church as an agnostic, even atheist, and the experiences that it evokes. It's a powerful poem, but a poem that offers hope, I think. It certainly offers a pause for thought. It was written in the mid-1950s. He took a long time to write it. He went through several drafts before it arrived in the version in which we'll shortly hear it. But even as an agnostic or atheist, Larkin imagines himself approaching this church and the church calling out some response, some need to read, perhaps, encounter some scripture on his own. Perhaps we've done that. Perhaps we've walked up to the lectern in a church we visited that's been empty and imagined. Critical to what Philip Larkin is saying is an approach almost in the shoes of that psalmist to the good things about church and the possibilities of church, the possibilities of the community of church, the possibility above all else of growing wise together. It is a house, he says, that is proper to grow wise in. And growing wise as a person of faith, holy wisdom, is a part of our journey and has been in the church for hundreds of years. So however we may come or explore a church, however we may approach God in a building that may be full or it may be empty, may God grant us as we journey on together the joy and the anticipation of the psalmist and the feeling of praise. We'll now hear the poem. Once I'm sure there's nothing going on, I step inside, letting the door thus shut. Another church, matting, seats and stone and little books, sprawlings of flowers cut for Sunday, brownish now, some brass and stuff up at the holy end, the small, neat organ, and a tense, musty, unignorable silence, brewing God knows how long. Hatless, I take off my cycle clips in awkward reverence. Move forward, run my hand around the font. From where I stand, the roof looks almost new, cleaned or restored. Someone would know, I don't. Mounting the lectern, I peruse a few hectoring large-scale verses and pronounce, "Here endeth," much more loudly than I'd meant. The echoes snigger briefly. Back at the door, I sign the book, donate an Irish sixpence, reflect the place was not worth stopping for. Yet stop I did. In fact, I often do, and always end much at a loss like this, wondering what to look for, wondering too when churches will fall completely out of use. What shall we then turn them into? We should keep a few cathedrals chronically on show, their parchment, plate and pyx in locked cases, and let the rest rent free to rain and sheep. Shall we avoid them as unlucky places? Or after dark will dubious women come to make their children touch a particular stone, pick simples for a cancer, or on some advised night see walking a dead one? Power of some sort will go on in games, in riddles, seemingly at random. But superstition, like belief, must die. And what remains when disbelief has gone? Grass, weedy pavement, brambles, buttress, sky. A shape less recognizable each week, a purpose more obscure. I wonder who the very last to seek that place for what it was. One of the crew that tap and jot and know what rude lofts were, some ruined bibber, randy for antique, or Christmas addict, counting on a whiff of gown and bands and organ pipes and myrrh. Or will he be my representative, bored, uninformed, knowing the ghostly silt dispersed, yet tending to this cross of ground through suburb scrub, because it held, unspilt, so long and equably what since is found only in separation, marriage and birth and death. And thoughts of these, for which was built this special shell, for though I've no idea what this accoutred frowsty barn is worth, it pleases me to stand in silence here. A serious house, on serious earth it is, in whose blent air all our compulsions meet, are recognized and robed as destinies. And that much never can be obsolete, since someone will forever be surprising a hunger in himself to be more serious, and gravitating with it to this ground, which he once heard was proper to grow wise in, if only that so many dead lie round.